Alright, hi everyone. Welcome to another edition of the C.O.E. Spotlight. This is actually our first video interview, and I'm here with Jackson Dang from Canadian Joysticks. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and basically what Canadian Joysticks is all about, when you guys opened up, and what was the main motivation behind Canadian Joysticks?
Alright, my name is Jackson Dang. I am the co-founder, frontman, and all-around public face for Canadian Joysticks. Well, we started the Canadian Joysticks because I really like fighting games in the arcades, and to make money, obviously. My business partners will scold me if I don't say that. Anyhow, yeah, the whole idea came about because we wanted the arcades to survive. To bring back the arcade influence to the Canadian homes. And that's how it began.
Cool. Very cool. With the rise in popularity of fighters recently, just like you said, and now that you guys help endorse tournaments, and obviously you got a lot of experience with them, for those that are looking to take part in tournaments, what kind of advice could you give some of our listeners?
The best advice is to just jump in and don't be worried about how well you perform. Just play till you get comfortable, and then just practice. Like anything you want to get good at, it's just a lot of physical and mental training.
And how many tournaments have you guys partaken in the last little while?
Too many to count, really. I'm not trying to showboat or anything. It's I haven't really been keeping track. I've been doing these weekly rambats here, and honestly, I don't remember how many I've done.
No, well, that's good. That's good. The more you do, the better experience. What kind of games typically show up at the tournaments? I mean, obviously, you got your Street Fighter 4, but is there like a wide assortment, or does it really depend on the tournament itself?
Well, each community has their own crowd. Street Fighter 4 is the main staple for most cases because it's the pretty much the baseline for all fighting games, and then it's all splinters off to the community. Some would prefer more of the Mortal Kombat line or the Ultimate Marvel, and then there's the anime fighters with Blaze Blue and Skullgirls.
I was going to ask you about that later on.
Yeah, currently it's the flavor of the month.
Yeah, I figured as much. Are there any special restrictions for or rules or anything like that when it comes to tournaments? Because I got a lot of people who've been asking, they've been curious to jump in, but they just don't know where to start or if there's anything in particular they need to know about.
Well, the rules and regulations and restrictions all depends on the organizers. Most organizations run off the EVO standard rules, which is best 2 out of 3 matches, 2 out of 3 rounds. It all depends on the game and how big the crowd is.
Okay.
So the best is to get your information directly from your organizers.
Okay, that's interesting. And the age-old joystick or control pad question comes up all the time. We got tons of readers who ask us, which is better, and obviously it comes down to personal preference. But when we watch a lot of different tournament videos out there, it seems like just about 90% of the people actually have arcade sticks. And what do you think that is? I mean, I understand from years ago it primarily would be, well, the fighters were always in the arcades, but I've seen people, they look like almost kids, and they're like jamming out there with their arcade sticks. And why do you think, arcade sticks in general are just so popular?
It's a tool of the trade, really. Like the joysticks really have all the buttons laid out, so you don't really have to like work your hands too hard, so you won't get finger cramps. And generally, it's just the weight and the feel of the stick. Well, there's also people who prefer the control pad as well. I personally prefer the control pad when I play certain games like Super Turbo or King of Fighters games. Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting, and I had a lot of people who were mentioning just that, about the finger cramps, and one of the reasons they were looking to go into joysticks. Now there are a whole wide assortment of joysticks, which we're going to touch on in just a sec, but I've heard different things like there's octagonal plates and stuff. What the heck is all that stuff?
Those are restrictor gates. There are generally 3 different types. There's the square gate, the octagonal gate, and the circle gate. The square gate is the traditional Japanese form, which you find in all the Japanese arcade cabinets. They're in the those are the default setups, pretty much.
Okay.
So the square means that you feel the four corners in the on the upper left, upper right, bottom left, bottom right corners, and some people don't really like using that because if they're in North America, they're used to the circle gates found in the American hapsticks. I am just nerding out right now because this is like
no, that's good. That's good. Keep going.
All right. Anyhow, the American hapsticks are generally circular in motion, in restriction, meaning that you don't feel any corner whatsoever when you rotate the stick around. So when people play Street Fighter and here in North America, they're used to playing on the American hapstick, so they want the circle feel. So when they transition to the Japanese sticks and feel the corners, they have to get over that sort of mental gap, that physical feel of the stick. So generally, it's just practice to get over that that little what do you call it? That physical restriction, I guess.
Okay.
The octagonal gate is sort of the in between of the two. The octagonal gate is usually found on Tekken machines, believe it or not.
Okay.
And the octagonal means that you have 8 corners, so you have one in every single direction. And the reason why it's popular in Tekken and generally Namco fighting games is because like Namco fighting games use single direction plus button combination to do moves. So you press like back and punch, well, is different from forward and punch, and all sorts of different combinations and so forth. So when players use Japanese sticks but prefer circle gates, they would have to use the octagonal gates because that's the closest thing they can get.
Okay, well that's really interesting. And I've heard that you can really customize certain arcade sticks over other ones. And is that really like something that's really difficult to do, or is that something like a noob can go and buy an arcade stick and just open it up and start like switching around the restrictor plates and stuff like that, or is that something you would sort of hold off on and only leave that to like the pros?
Well, it depends on what sort of customizations you want. Like you can do the basic cosmetic stuff where you just like change out the buttons for different type of colors. Restrictor plates are pretty easy to switch out depending on the stick you have. But then you get into the more technical stuff where you want to do like dual modding, where you want to make one stick work on all consoles and so forth. That gets into the more technical like soldering and wiring and all that.
Okay, okay, and that actually perfectly leads into my my next question here. With some of these 3-in-1 sticks that we've seen on the market, well, like you guys specialize in that you sell, which is awesome. We've also heard a lot of things, a lot of comments from the X Arcade. Have you guys used that? It looked like a tank. It seemed weird.
The X Arcade. Oh, that is a wonderful stick. I personally haven't actually used it, though. What I know of the stick is that it is a company that made it way back in the early 2000s, even like late 90s, even, and they made it with all American parts. So it's all heavy wood. Circular joystick, half buttons and everything, and it's just a big device, and it was mainly PC centric, and you would need adapters to work on different consoles, and I'm not too sure if they're still around actually. I would like to see. I never actually seen someone use it. It was more like an experimental project in my eyes. But they have well enough brand recognition to stay in everybody's mind. I mean, I've seen a whole bunch of different models that they have, including like ones with trackballs.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, no, that's very interesting. With what you guys sell, what's your like weapon of choice?
Weapon of choice? I prefer the stick generally for most cases. Like, okay. I'm an arcade rat. I'm used to playing in arcades, and so in any type of arcade game, I would use a stick.
Do you have a preference for what brand, or are you just neutral, any stick, and you're good to go?
I'm pretty neutral when it comes to sticks, though I am currently used to using the Quambas now. The Quambas are replicate the Taito Vuelix cabinets setup. So the buttons are arranged in a certain way and spaced in a certain way. So I'm just sort of used to that now. So if I transition to like a Hori stick, which uses the Astro City setup style, where the buttons are more arced, I sort of have to get my head around that a little more.
Okay.
So it kind of throws me off the game just a little bit.